Good afternoon, dear guests. I have a privilege to host today Gheorghe Mchidlashvili, who is a prominent scholar, diplomat from Georgia. Mr. Mchedlishvilli, thank you very much for joining us today, and again, it's a great privilege for me to host you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mikhailo, Michael, so the way you prefer to be called. So, likewise, great privilege for me to be invited to this English-speaking broadcast. I wish you all success, Godspeed, and I hope we will have today interesting conversation as well as your further conversation, because you are really top-notch journalists, able to ask very interesting questions. Well, so let's start.
Thank you very much. Really, I appreciate the fact that you joined today my podcast. Mr. Mchidlashvili, I would like to start with the situation we now have between Iran and the United States, because many experts actually foresee this solution, diplomatic solution, which we now have, a kind of a truce between the United States and Iran. And what actually President Trump is doing is just put a lipstick on the pig. So try to pretend that actually this is a very successful scenario, this is a very successful agreement, but in reality, Iran actually enjoys its victory over the United States. No matter what Iranian officials say, now we are a great power of the region. So what do you think?
Well, that's very unfortunate that United States sleepwalked itself and Israel, or maybe one sleepwalked the other, into this war, into this pretty disastrous war, without any preparation, without congressional consent, without consultation with the society, with the experts. Well, for some reason, Trump believed that he is a top-notch geopolitician, so statesman, and well, it was an enormous blunder. That's very unfortunate. So obviously, I have no qualms about the losses. I mean, the losses of the command that Iran suffered. It is a terrible clerical regime, and no one should regret. So the passing, this forceful perishing of Khamenei and other leaders who were, of course, holding their nation hostage, who were stealing money, who created an terribly, I would say, prehistoric society in the 21st century. Obviously, no question about that. It was a terrible regime, but there are other bad regimes in the world. And so for me, the calculus for the standpoint of the United States is is inexplicable. So today, what we see today, Iran obviously used the major card, well, one of these favorite words in the parlance of Donald Trump. Iran had only one card, Hormuz Strait, and it obviously deployed it, and it played it. It played it to the detriment of the global economy. So today, well, there are signs of stabilization. There are signs of actually oil prices, gas prices actually going down. But again, there are too many variables and some factors which are outside the control of the United States as well as Iran, for that matter. For instance, like Israel, Lebanon, clashes and still actually unsettled business. So therefore, well, it was like hornet's nest, Pandora's box, you name it, you name the analogy. And today we have a far less stable Middle East. Middle East was very imperfect, but at least for the time being, it was stable. Now, we don't know how it will develop, very hopefully, keeping fingers crossed. So situation will stabilize after 60 days. And it is not in Iran's interest today actually to create instability, but again, it will be empowered and it will sell it as a victory to its population. And it will tighten the grip on its own population, on the protesters. So what I feel particularly sorry and empathetic to this part of the Iranian society who are protesting and who are suffering enormous backlash on the part of the authorities.
One of the main aims of a modern state is to actually to find a balance between let's say diplomatic solutions and military solutions against its foes, and the same refers to Iran, refers to United States, whatsoever. And President Trump recently suggested that Iran should have its own voice over the situation in the region. Iran has to have a ballistic weapon in order to balance other states in the region. And obviously for Iran, it's important to stay resilient by actually having appropriate means to defend itself against, let's say, another states in the region. But at the same time, there is a strong concern that Iran won't abandon its nuclear program, and eventually Iran, bearing in mind an example of Saddam Hussein, who abandoned Iraq's nuclear program, Iran would try to pursue and actually finish its nuclear program in order to have a strong deterrent against other states which would like to chase Iran. So, what do you think? Will Iran continue to elaborate on its nuclear program?
Most likely it will, because as you very rightly mentioned, this is a major deterrent, and of course they will want to have it. Obviously, we see that no country have ever attempted to destabilize and to change even more terrible regime in North Korea, in Pyongyang, who is another Kim at the helm, because precisely they have some nuclear potential. So it will be also the message to the other states, okay, if you want to keep your country safer, try to develop a nuclear weapon. And it might create another, I would say, actually, wave of instability. That's very unfortunate. But most importantly, Iran has been a major sponsor of terrorism in the region. Okay, it's one of the masterminds of this terrible October 7 attack on Israel. So today I feel, had I been an Israeli citizen, I would be very concerned, because what I see basically is United States, major ally, I wouldn't say betraying, just forgetting about our interests and existence. So from the state of Israel. So therefore, I think that today, Middle East, because of this extremely stupid, sorry for the lack of diplomatic apology. Right now, I'm not a diplomat. I take this actually the advantage of using the words which I find fit in the moment. At the moment, so it was a terribly stupid mistake on the part of the U.S. administration, whatever is the reason actually they started to wage war. And today, so United States is weaker in the region, and the region is less stable, which is also very bad from my own standpoint for the South Caucasus, because South Caucasus, one of the, I would say, major factors, criterion of South Caucasus becoming a fully fledged region and capitalizing on its potential is relative stability on its border. You know, Iran borders Armenia and Azerbaijan, so therefore South Caucasus is also actually not exactly in the on the target, but very close by.
Let's look on position of other great powers like Russia, for example. We see that actually United States is mirroring Russian situation in Ukraine, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, Russia conducted a fierce aggression against Ukraine. We understand that we can't compare Ukraine and Iran because if, let's say, you can at least consider that Iran represents a threat to Israel and actually to the stability of the Gulf states, at the same time, Ukraine suffers from unmotivated Russian full-scale invasion. So you can't directly compare these both cases, but we can compare them only in terms of, let's say, an invasion on behalf of a superpower against the smaller states and the retaliation measures which these smaller states conducted against invaders. So how do you assess the Russian position in this regard? How actually the peace settlement or a truce settlement between Iran and the United States affects a Russian position in the region?
Well, on the one hand, it showed that Russia is really losing the grip pretty much everywhere. It is so much bogged down in Ukraine that it hasn't actually it's like tentacles don't reach neither to Syria, neither to Moldova, neither to Armenia for that matter, neither to Iran. So they could do nothing. They just actually could observe another their close ally going down. I mean, actually on the personal level, as well as countries suffering invasion. And yes, one can actually state one poetic justice, so to speak, if you will, because Iran was major supplier of Shahed drones, something actually which was a terribly with Ukraine has actually a terrible experience, which is responsible for a number of deaths in Ukraine. In this particular regard, shutting down this production and Iran taking thinking mostly about restoration is a good news. So therefore, yeah, and again, any mistake on the part of United States and generally the West is Russia's advantage. And I think strategically, maybe at the end of the day, China will be maybe kind of the biggest net winner of this of this situation, because while the United States is overextending itself or making strategic blunders, China develops technologically on other sectors, probably Iran will resume its role of major supplier of China's energy needs. So therefore, yes, one can say that any mistake, any strategic blunder on the part of the West, United States, be it the United States and Europe, is good news for Russia. Well, I very much hope that for today Russia suffers a number of losses on the part of Ukraine. Now, I think Russia is too much busy actually kind of taking care of itself and its own fuel supply.
Recently, Mr. Sergei Karaganov, who is a prominent scholar in Russia and considered to be a kind of a mastermind behind Russian authorities, he gave an interview where he again stipulated about the application of Russian nuclear facilities against Europe. Prior to this, Karaganov mentioned that Russia can retaliate against factory productions in Europe, which actually linked to Ukrainian resistance. And it's quite funny because if you listen to, for instance, Professor John Mearsheimer, some other people who considered to be associated with the realist school of geopolitics, you hear that actually they champion an idea of Mr. Karaganov stating that obviously Russia will retaliate against Europe, and if Europe will do something, then Russia will strike a nuclear weapon. And it's quite funny because these people, they don't consider the fact that actually Russia violated international law, and actually Ukraine has its right to retaliate against Russia. So from their perspective, Ukraine doesn't need to retaliate. Actually, Ukraine needs to accept Russia peace terms, which is actually unacceptable for Ukraine. If we follow what President Zelensky is saying, and actually if you follow the mood of majority of Ukrainian people. So why these threats represented by Mr. Karaganov, Mr. Medvedev, not directly but Putin, but people who surround Putin? Why these threats? Or do these threats considered to be serious, and why Russia tries to manipulate Western countries by pushing these threats against Western states?
Well, despite Russia being weakened, not actually despite, but precisely because Russia feels weakened, one can apply so-called madman theory in Russia. Actually, kind of a madman, actually already cornered and therefore capable of whatever they have actually kind of in their means. So therefore, I would take this threat theory seriously, although one can consider. So Putin is not a passionary, for instance, Fidel Castro or some like for the Cuban leaders. So they were ready to sacrifice their nation for the idea, for the cause. Putin is a hedonist. Putin builds palaces. Putin actually kind of lives in luxury. So he doesn't want to go down to history. Okay, in a violent means. So he would probably try to negotiate, and then because through his propaganda machine, sell this as at least a partial victory. So therefore, he just shows that this is one of the cards that actually using the nuclear weapon is in the cards, and of course he tries to scare Western audiences. On a number of occasions, the similar threats, unfortunately, they worked because the majority of the population in European society They just want comfort. They want actually lower taxes. They want grower economies. They want actually kind of like less working hours, 35-hour working week or 30-hour working week, and actually significant for so vacation packages and so on. Well, these are unfortunate. Well, this is the fact that our Western society. So Putin tries to actually kind of like put on balance that their existence and their actually comfort zone. Today, it seems that Europe is gradually awakening. Certain leaders like, well, again, I have a very mixed opinion about, for instance, actually outgoing Prime Minister of the UK, but, internationally, he was fully supportive of Ukraine. Again, domestic policies of Macron leave a lot to be desired, but internationally, he was fully supportive of Ukraine. Europe gradually is on the tracks of becoming a partially a war economy. They realize that their security should be in their own hands, particularly given that the United States is becoming increasingly unreliable. So therefore, I believe that it is not easy to scare Europeans as it was, for instance, 5-10 years ago. And again, we talked about international law. Well, people like John Mearsheimer and with them like Karaganov, they precisely disregard international law because they believe that realism theory is about pure strength and not about the law. International law and the rules like fly out of the window when it comes to this like national security interest. But what I really believe, and probably you will agree with me, that holding Ukraine and not allowing Ukraine to develop like a European state is not against Russia's interest. At the end of the day, it is in their interest, actually, kind of on the Russian society or Russian country, but not interest of the Putin and his clique. That's the issue.
Interviewing experts from Azerbaijan, I noticed that mostly they are very happy that actually, or they pretend to be happy, or they pretend to emphasize that Iran became weaker, at least military capacity of Iran decreased comparing to what we have in February, because we remember the role Iran played during the Second Karabakh War when Iran was supporting Armenia, even though that Azerbaijani popularity of Iran strongly supported Azerbaijan. And we remember how actually Azerbaijani population, they prevented goods shipped from Russia to help Armenia. They were stopped by Azerbaijani and Tibris, so forth. So looking from a Azerbaijani perspective, actually Mr. Ghalibaf, the leader of Congress of Iran, he just visited Baku, and actually Ghalibaf was also the chief leader of the negotiating team which negotiated with the US truce deal. So looking from the Azerbaijani perspective and generally the peace settlement in the South Caucasus, which we now have the rapprochement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So we remember the role Iran actually played, and Iran had their own position regarding the Zangezur corridor trip and the participation of the United States. So how do you foresee the change of the role of Iran in the region? Will Iran remain a significant player in this region?
Well, for now, Iran is neutered militarily. But just for now, we cannot say, well, we can predict rather that actually in the medium term, in the longer term, it will partially at least restore its military might. So because nothing in the memorandum of understanding prevents Iran from actually from doing that. That's, I think, very unfortunate. For now, three countries of the South Caucasus, and Azerbaijan in particular, could actually sleep well. But again, I mean actually for now, actually in the shorter term, for another year or two, but it will not take Iran long to restore at least partially its military might. So yes, it's very unfortunate that Iran has been playing the role of spoiler, again being on the one hand ally of Russia, on the other hand actually having its own actually phantom pace about being once erstwhile a serious regional Eurasian power. So therefore, I believe that there is a momentum. Well, let me just actually talk about it from this perspective of the South Caucasus. You mentioned very rightly, very positively, the current trend of rapprochement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So there is a momentum, and momentum should be kept and should be actually stoked and should be pushed forward. Today, I believe, finally, European bureaucracy, European structures are able to play a positive role. even a few months ago, I was very critical of them because they're mostly kind of like supporting Armenia and presenting that conflict not as a restoration of territorial integrity, but like autocracy fighting democracy, which is a very, I would say, kind of like far-fetched misrepresentation of what has been actually happening. Today, I believe that they are more constructive. And again, when we talk about outside factors, 3+3 and other formulas, well, I'm the proponent of just 3 without any pluses. Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia being together, developing a closer ties, taking advantage of already existing infrastructure because it is existing, particularly kind of the axis of like Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and also adding new railways and other roads which may turn South Caucasus into the genuine intra-regional hub rather.
Last question, actually, I would like you to address about the Strait of Hormuz. Because we see that, unfortunately, still United States can't secure actually the free flow of goods through the Strait of Hormuz, and we understand that United States actually, and many people say this. For instance, Mr. Bolton, who used to be a national security advisor to President Trump during his first term, that now Iran can manipulate with the Strait of Hormuz, pretending that anytime Iran wants, actually Iran can close down Strait of Hormuz unless United States actually fulfill conditions pushed by Iran. So what do you see regarding the Strait of Hormuz? Will the United States be able to secure the state of affairs we had before the invasion to Iran?
Well, I said, answering your first question, that Iran had one major card, a trump card, well, so to speak, or actually kind of a joker card, and it played it already. So it means it doesn't have any other card. Well, what is the advantage of a strong card? It means that you can play it, but disadvantage it, you can play it only once. Obviously, this will be a message to other countries in the region, to the Gulf states, that, well, Strait of Hormuz is no longer and the most secure, actually, passage, waterway. So therefore, they will be thinking of renewables, they will be thinking of other infrastructure, they will be thinking about, actually, routes which circumvent the Hormuz, be it actually overland or like by the sea or railroad. Therefore, yes, it will take effort, it will take time, but again, over time, so Iran will lose its grip. And then, of course, it will be in a much weaker position. That is, the other side of playing a card, right? When you have with only one. So therefore, in the longer term perspective, I see that, generally everything will be back in order, but of course it takes time, and that time will be critical for global economy, for other actually kind of regional projects, as well as the overall stability. But again, over time, we will have the new configuration, we will have the new geopolitical landscape without Strait of Hormuz playing a major role.
Mr. Mchidlashvili, it was really a great honor to interview you. I really appreciate your time and effort, and for an audience who watched us during these 25 minutes, I would like to remind that today we hosted Mr. Gheorghe Mchidlashvili, who is a prominent Georgian scholar and diplomat. Mr. Mchidlashvili, thank you very much, and looking forward to have you again on my YouTube show. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
And for audience, I'd like to remind that you also can subscribe to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you.